Okay, so cassava is a plant grown in Africa. If you look in the upper right corner, these are cassava fields, and these are the plants that are grown. And if you look in the bottom left, we actually have the cassava roots, which is the portion of the crop that is eaten. They're a starchy tuberous root grown in Africa that's consumed by about 250 million people each day. It's an extremely important root crop that is second most important calories, only to maize. And a typical cassava-based diet has plenty of carbohydrates, has plenty of calories, but unfortunately, it's about completely devoid of other basic nutritional content. For example, a typical cassava-based diet would only provide the recommended daily values of about 60% zinc and only about 30% of iron. In many African-based countries, these cassava-based diets are very typical and are very common, which, if not correctly supplemented, will eventually lead to severe deficiencies and severe health problems as a result of that. If you look at these charts we've taken the African continent and divided all of the countries up, and we've mapped out zinc deficiencies in blue and iron deficiencies in green. The darker the colors, the more severe of deficiency issues they have in those countries. Now, the more severe deficiencies that we have in these nutrients lead to severe health problems. For example, iron deficiencies lead to severe anemia, and zinc deficiencies lead to a compromised immune system, which leaves the community susceptible to many other diseases. So to solve this problem, we've developed a genetically engineered, stably transformed line of cassava with increased levels of bioavailable zinc and iron content in its tuberous roots by about 3 to 10 times the amount in a normal cassava plant. Now, if you look at this graph we have on the bottom right, we've taken the recommended daily amounts of iron and zinc, which you'll find as the red horizontal bars, and we've compared the typical amount of iron and zinc in a daily diet of wild-type cassava and of Supersava. If you look, the wild-type cassava doesn't meet either of the red bars, which are the recommended daily values, not even close, really. If you'll take a look at Supersava, it's clearly surpassed both of these recommended daily values. So to increase this bioavailable iron and zinc, we've incorporated 2 new genes into the cassava plant genome. The first gene is FEA1, which is a plasma membrane iron-specific transporter. On this diagram we have, it's a typical cassava root cell, and this FEA1 transporter is the bottom right red rectangle. That's where it shows up in the plant. This increases uptake efficiency of iron from the soil into the cassava roots. The second gene that we've incorporated is ATMTP1, which codes for a vacuole membrane zinc transporter, which can be found in the upper left of the plant. It's the other red rectangle. And this takes zinc that has already been taken up into the root cell and concentrates it into the vacuole so that it can't move to other portions of the plant that aren't consumed. These genes are introduced into the plant by an agrobacterium-mediated transformation and are expressed in the root cells specifically by using the storage root-specific promoter patatin. This is extremely important that we concentrate all of these nutrients into the root because the leaves are used for other purposes and the root is the only portion of the plant that's actually consumed.
Right. So, as you can see in the pie graph, Africa produces almost 50% of the world's cassavas. The continent of Africa actually uses more farmland to produce cassava than any other continent in the world. You can see here that the green are countries that are located in Africa and the blue are other countries. It's estimated that by 2020, 60% of cassava will be produced in Africa. In addition, Africa's cassava production has tripled between 1961 and 1999, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization. This means that bioengineering a cassava would have a major impact on Africa, who already has a major micronutrient deficiency, as we saw. Fortunately, cassava is propagated with its root and is easily distributed. This provides a unique challenge, though, because once it's released to the public, it is hard to keep control of it and market it towards the consumer. So we are marketing ours towards charitable organizations such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. To date, they've spent over $20 million on similar products to ours, such as the BioCassava Plus, which only incorporates one micronutrient. Now, we feel ours is much more useful because ours has two, and therefore it will capture a much larger portion of the market because the zinc and iron are major problems in Africa. So our product will be protected by a patent that claims our novel method to enrich the iron and zinc in cassava root tissue through the introduction of genetic sequences that encode iron and zinc membrane transporters. Currently, there are no patents on these membrane transporters for iron and zinc. However, Monsanto does own the agrobacterium transformation system, but allows its free use as long as it's for humanitarian purposes. Patatin, which is a gene promoter that expresses the transgene in the roots, is patented, but we believe that they would allow us to use it if it was for humanitarian purposes. And these are our references. Any questions?
Good. Any questions? One question up here.
How much zinc and iron is actually in the soil that plants can take up? Like, is the soil like very rich in these micronutrients, or any soil analyses?
Depends where
So-
what soil.
So the question is, are the African soils rich enough in zinc and iron to actually fortify them completely?
I guess it would depend like what type of soil you're growing it on. Like Africa's a really large continent, so it varies.
All right. Great. Next group.